All right, hey everybody, welcome to our monthly live stream for the TLB Club, for Thought Leader Brand Club. We're here. The TLB Club is a membership community to help you elevate your business, your brand, and your sales, marketing, and digital voice. And I'm here with three other amazing video strategy experts. They're amazing people that know what they're talking about, and they love video. They love to do video, and I'm really happy to have them here. So it's going to be kind of a fun conversation today. So thanks so much for coming by. And if you are enjoying the conversation, feel free to chat below. Let us know where you're calling in from. Are you coming from North America, South America, Australia, Asia, Europe, Africa? Let us know. We'd love to see you. So thanks so much for coming by today. Let's start off with a little bit of introductions here. My name is Bobby Umar. I'm a motivational speaker by trade. I've done 5 TEDx talks and I've rejected 3 other TEDx talks. I've done 1,000 keynotes workshops over the last 20 years across 4 continents. And for me, speaking and training is a big part of what I do. I help people land a TEDx talk guaranteed to elevate their brand and their thought leadership. I also do content strategy. I also run the TLB Club membership community. And I do a lot of corporate training. So that's a bit about myself. Let's go to some of our fellow speakers. We'll go to Alex, then Chris, then Rutuja. Please go ahead and introduce yourself in that order.
Okay. Well, I'm Alex. I'm living in Orlando, Florida right now. I run a company called I Am Media. We're a video marketing agency and podcast production company. And I've been on LinkedIn pretty regularly, well, semi regularly since 2020. Taking some breaks here and there, but trying to make my way back now. And LinkedIn video has always been something that I've prioritized because I'm a video guy. But I also love YouTube, talk to people about Instagram, TikTok somewhat. So all the platforms where video is relevant, which is pretty much all of them now, are ones that I look forward to talking to you about.
Nice,
Chris, go
everybody.
ahead.
Yeah, hey, good to be here. My name is Chris. I'm a VP head of content at a production accounting and payroll software company for entertainment like Netflix and Warner Brothers and all those guys. I have long history in digital content. So I've worked in media, CNN, Huffington Post, Business Insider, built startups, worked on startups. I've run social video studios a while ago in Hong Kong. I've built out influencer campaigns across Asia for video game publishers. I worked at LinkedIn for a couple of years based out of Singapore as a managing editor for APAC. Video has always been a huge part of what I've done and what I've built as a part of content strategy. So it's always good to talk about it, and especially from a LinkedIn perspective and a multi-channel perspective. So cool to be here.
Hi
Awesome.
guys, I'm Rutuja. I am a social media manager. All my social media is by the personal brand girl. Basically, my job is to get founders to get their creativity out through video because we all know video is hard and it's hard to do it consistently. So that's my job with everyone I work with. And I focus a lot on Instagram reels and storytelling kind of video content. And I'm super excited for this to start and discuss some cool video strategies today.
Okay, well, let's get to the first question though, which is really why does video matter, right? I mean, people are very nervous about video, and they're like, I like doing video, but let's make the case first why video matters. Let's start with you, Chris. Why does video matter?
I mean, how does it not matter in today's content landscape? It's everywhere. Just look at LinkedIn and the recent changes that they've had with promoting video. I mean, there's the TikTokification of video on LinkedIn, where they've promoted it in the feed. They've really pushed it up. And when you see a company like LinkedIn really pushing that aspect, where it's not typically considered a video platform in the past, it's a big deal. And I think all of us here can really attest to the importance of video across channels. People don't consume content in the same way that they did 10 years ago, right? Like it's a very much a visual medium these days. And you really need to have some aspect of video, or at least be thinking about video when it comes to creating any kind of content. It's hugely important.
What about you, Ratuja? What's your take?
I think video is such a cool medium to share energy, and it's a cool way for to get people to either love you or hate you. And you can't do that on text. Like you can talk and people can hear you, see you, and really either connect with you or not connect with you at all. It's super easy to do through video. And I think that your overall brand personality, to do it over text, it's a little bit harder. Like you have to maintain the messaging and make sure you use the right words, copywriting, etc. But video, if you do it regularly, keeps the personality of the brand really consistent, and every single piece of content aligns with your values and ethics, because it's literally like you talking to the camera all the time.
Alex?
Well, there's multiple reasons why video is important, but I'll just say when it comes to video, our brains literally can't tell the difference between you being in front of somebody and having them talk to you and watching somebody on a screen. And so when it comes to trying to really communicate your messages authentically, trying to communicate complex concepts quickly, and just telling stories better, video is going to be one of the best options that you have to make sure that things are communicated in the way that you actually wanted them to be received. And for you to start creating a relationship with folks before you even get to meet them in person, get them on the phone, send an email, you can already start establishing some of those emotional ties with your video content, because to our brains, it's the same as us speaking to one another.
Awesome. And I'll say I always lead with my piece of data for the data nerds out there, which is, first off, more than 80% of all content consumed right now on the internet is video consumption. So that's a big thing. You all know this because you're all scrolling through TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and all the different places.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. But the other one I like is that, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but according to Forrester's research, a 1 minute video is worth 1.8 million words. 1.8 million words. That's huge. So
That's
getting
crazy.
involved, yeah. So getting into video content, I think, is a huge piece of your brand, about your thought leadership, and all that kind of stuff. Now, I guess I kind of want to get into, maybe, can you easily share like when you first started getting into video and maybe some challenges or screw ups you made back in the day? I kind of want to hear some of those stories. So let's go to you, Rutuja. Any beginner stories? I want to hear those.
Yeah, I think the biggest, the most fun story that I have is when I started recording content. I was like, okay, it has to be corporate and professional, and I'm going to wear like a really, like, an office kind of outfit, right? Like a shirt, and do my hair in a certain way, because I came from the sales background. And my mom saw the video and she's like, this doesn't even look like you. Like, it's a different person. What are you doing? Why are you not dancing and opening your hair and laughing and smiling at the camera? Like, why are you so boring? And and I did not expect that to come from my mom, to be honest, because she's like a perfectionist. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you literally are like, be perfect all the time, and now you're saying dance on camera. It doesn't make sense. And she said to me that you have to do who you are, you have to show who you are, and that is your perfect. And that completely changed my mindset about shooting content. And the next day I'm like shooting all different kind of things, like crazy things, putting nail paint and talking about marketing, and like dancing and talking about marketing. And I started having fun, just because my mom pointed it out to me, like, you're not this person. If you were this person, I would expect that from you, but since you're not, you have to be who you are. And I think that's something that people struggle with a lot, and they're scared to show who they are. But I just want to tell everyone who's watching this right now, people are going to not like you, and those are not your clients.
Yeah, amen to that. How about you, Chris? What were the early days for you?
Oh gosh. I'll point back to 2014 when I was working at Pixable, which was a visual media startup based out of New York. And I had brought in a photojournalist who had worked for me at another publisher. And we were very experimental since we were geared toward visual media, and we wanted to start doing more drone photography, drone video, and things of that nature. And as you're learning something, and kind of like drones at the time were just kind of getting out there as far as being like a big deal. So he wanted to push the boundaries a little bit, and he'd go and like do videos in the Northeast of beautiful foliage, and he'd do abandoned buildings and like really cool stuff. But then one day I get a phone call from him, and he says, "Hey, just want to let you know, if you get a call from the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security, um, it's because I flew the drone over the World Trade Center." And I'm like, no, like you're kidding me, right? Like, he's like, no, just let you know, it's fine. Like, I had the black SUVs all come out, and found me from where I was flying from, and they told me not to do it, and they took all my information, and I said, okay, that's great. So next time, I think you need to be a little bit more conscious about what you do and how you approach where you film, what you film, and how you're doing it. Right. So it to me at the time was like, okay, there are going to be challenges with like this new format, with this new thing. And like there are things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to doing videography, when it comes to where you're filming and how you're filming, and what you're filming at the time. And especially if you're working with people and other professionals for a brand or a company, it really pays to like know what they're doing. So for me, it was a huge lesson in like, okay, you cannot do this. And yes, we are not associated with what you've done on this day. Like, this is on you, buddy. If it comes back to you, you took that risk. It wasn't in, for our company. Like, this is on you. It's like, yep, I understand. It was on me. I did it without permission. So when you give somebody the power to do video and really go out there and do incredible things, like, you have to be prepared for the possibility that it's not going to work. And, you don't want the FBI or Department of Homeland Security coming, knocking on your company door if somebody makes a mistake. So that one always sticks out in my head, is like, hey, if you're going to experiment, be conscious about, what the end result could be and who you're working with.
I'll share one, then I'll hand it over to Alex. One of my, in the beginning, like when video came out, in different platforms, I was like, I should be doing this because I'm a speaker and it's very easy for me to do. But I was really bare bones about it, and I wouldn't invest. So oftentimes the lighting was bad, or I would take my phone and I would try to find a ledge or a book and try to, try to figure out where to do it. And then when it happened, like that tripod, I just never bought the tripod for like years. And I was like, Bobby, it's $50 on Amazon. Just get the damn tripod. And now it's like, I love this thing. It's like, take it wherever I go. And that to me was a really big one. And another time I had a video that was upside down. And I couldn't figure out how the hell to fix it. So I turned into a post. I post on LinkedIn and say, hey, this video sucks. It's a tech fail. But you know what? I'm going to put it out there anyways, because there's a message for you. And that's a lesson to be learned. So I did that. Alex, what about you? What about the early days for you?
I think my biggest mistakes early on, and probably I still suffer with this some, is trying to be too perfect. And what I mean by that is different from Rutuja. Is mine is trying to be too perfect from a technical standpoint, because I am a video guy, because I love all the lights and the tech and everything. Like, I always wanted everything to be high production value. I wanted to look cinematic and all those things. And so sometimes that would stop me from doing anything, just because it's like, well, I just don't want to put in the work to set up the lights. I don't want to, like, oh, I have this idea, but it would take so long to shoot because I'd have to start and stop and do all these things and set up different shots. And I mean, sometimes it's worth it to go through that trouble, but a lot of times I'm tired, bro. I got kids. I got like, I got a business I'm trying to run. Plus I'm trying to create content and be online. And I mean, confession, I don't actually like being online. I don't like the internet on most days other than YouTube. And I don't like social media for the most part, but that's where most of the stuff I produce goes to.
Got to do it.
So it's like, catch 22s all over the place. So a lot of times it's really hard for me to get out of my own way and forget about the tech, or be satisfied with like a lower level of tech or production value. Also, I hate filming with my phone, but sometimes the phone stuff is just so good that you just got to go ahead and do it. Like, I mean, the only reason I have an iPhone is because of the camera, and then I hardly ever use it because I hate shooting on phone cameras.
I hear you on that. And listen, everyone who's listening in, or if you're watching, this is being multi-streamed multiple places: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, YouTube. So come with your questions, share, and like let's get some comments going. So share comments in the box. Where are you calling in from? Do you have questions for the panel? Do you have anything you want to share? Any insights? Let's get engagement with people. So and we'll, if you do, we'll share some of those. We'll share some of those things, on the page here, so people can say, hey, people are actually engaging. Let's get to the basics though. So I mean, a lot of people, just want to know how to get started. Like, I don't even know what to talk about. What do I talk about? And I'm going to go to you, Alex, first on this one. I mean, what would you say to these people who are just struggling to come up with even things to say in a video?
I mean, one of the easiest ways to get started is just answering the types of questions that you get all the time, every day, from your clients, the questions that you get from leads every day, especially if you're just trying to educate people who are first becoming familiar with your area of expertise. A lot of times people have what I call expert blindness. It's because they're so deep into whatever it is. They're an expert on, I don't know, education or thermonuclear devices or finances. Like, they're so in the weeds and so deep into the knowledge base that they forget that the majority of people who are going to be watching their content, consuming it, considering hiring them for whatever it is that they do, they don't know the basics about what it is that person does. So sometimes if you come in with a really good explanation of the basics, just to give somebody some groundwork, some low level stuff that they can start to grip onto and start to understand how gifted you are or how knowledgeable you are, that can be a great place to start to get your content going, just to get you comfortable, because you already know all this stuff. You know it cold. You can talk about this stuff ad nauseum, and you should be talking about it ad nauseum, because when it comes to consistent messaging, you need to be a broken record. So don't be afraid to start with the basics. Yeah, sometimes you can get into the weeds, go into the deep stuff, the stuff that's really interesting to you. But remember, most of the people that you're actually creating the content for, because you're not creating the content for you, most of the people that you're creating the content for have no idea how deep the rabbit hole goes. So start them at the beginning.
I have a slightly different opinion from Alex on this one. I feel
Love that.
like already different opinions, like it's
Do
just
it.
the beginning. So I feel like when I work with my clients especially, and I tell them answer questions and just send me the answers, and we're going to get these videos edited for you. They do exactly what Alex calls expert blindness, and no matter how much you try to tell them that this is, I can't understand what you're saying, as your social media manager, it doesn't work. So I always go a different route with people I work with or consult, and usually I say, okay, you are going to do some research, and you are going to send me 20 videos that are exactly what you want to talk about. And usually that kind of gets them to understand a little bit of what is working in the industry and the level of expertise they can share. And when they send me those 20 videos, we sit down and break down each video, and then they have a clear understanding of what's going to work. And then I ask them to shoot videos on the same topics, and usually these videos perform 3 times or 4 times better than them just answering questions, because they've literally done a crash course on what's working on which social media platform. So that's where I'm like, I don't want to just, usually I recommend people to start with research. At least spend 30 minutes of research every single day until you can put your finger on the pulse of what's working, and then start creating content. Because when you start getting better results, you're motivated to do more, and once you hit like a reel which is like, what, this is crazy, then you never stop. Then the consistency just is better and better all the time.
And one thing I'll add is that, guys, you guys can interrupt whenever you want. We don't have to prompt. I don't have to prompt you for questions. I'll just share for me the thing that I tell people is that to me, it comes back to personal branding. What's your brand? What's your objective? What are you trying to do? And I find that the easiest things to talk on a video are, what are the questions that people always ask you all the time? People always ask me, Bobby, how did you get 500,000 followers on Twitter? How do you get a TEDx talk? How do you become a paid speaker? How do you build a brand? These are questions people ask me all the time. And the other thing is, what are things you love talking about? I love talking about movies. I love talking about politics. I love talking about social media trends. For me, those are things I like to talk about. So I'll talk about those things. And so for me, that it's coming up with a list of 5 or 10 things that people always ask you or things you talk about, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree with anything that Rutuja said. It's just a different approach, and I mean, doing research is good, and I think enough people don't do research. It's just that I think a lot of people, when they're first starting, there's gonna be a section of people that are kind of resistant to having to do that research. Whereas as if you start them off with something like, well, if you can ask them, well, what are the things that people are asking you, or what do new clients want to know, and you started from there, that can be sometimes an easier launch pad. And the thing is, you really just want to get people used to doing the thing so that they keep doing the thing. Because that's what stops a lot of people from creating video content, is just unfamiliarity with the process.
Yeah, and getting used to it, you have to do it, right? And this is something that I tell people a lot, is that it can be intimidating, especially if you're going through and looking at all of these really crisp, well-produced videos that are out there, and you just have no idea. Like if I'm looking through my LinkedIn feed and I see this sudden inflow of, skits and like very polished video for somebody who doesn't have a concept of that yet, like it's intimidating. It's intimidating, but you got to realize that like all those people too, they started off somewhere at some point, just like you are or your brand is. And the best way to do it is to sit down, put your phone in front of you, turn your webcam on, and just do it, and just start talking about things. Record it while you're doing it. And sometimes you'll find that even in those recordings, hey, that sounds pretty good, right? And you don't have to stack up and measure yourself to everybody else out there, because you're going to find your own routine. You're going to find your own niche. You're going to find your own way of doing something, that you don't have to be like, I want to be exactly like this guy, have the same format, have it at exactly the right length, right? You will get there, but you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
one
and I
thing
want
that I will say that one thing I will say to hop off what Chris was saying, is that there is nothing wrong though with copying people's formats. And I mean, that goes into what Rutuja was saying before, copying people's formats, copying people's video concepts. Like, imitation ain't just the greatest form of flattery, it's also one of the greatest ways to learn. Like when I started creating YouTube videos, because I have a small YouTube channel, basically what I was doing was like looking at the creators that I liked and being like, I want to make videos like that. And when my videos didn't look like that, I did more research on why do their videos look the way that they do. I found information. I started implementing that. Well, why do their videos sound like they do? Did more research, started implementing that. Why are they more entertaining? I start copying techniques that they're doing in their videos. Like, so there's nothing wrong with copying pieces of what, or even copying wholesale what somebody else does to get you started. Because once you start doing stuff and implementing different things, you'll figure out what you do like, what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And then you adjust, you pivot, you create your own style or your own way of doing things. But you got to get the ball rolling first.
Yeah,
Rutuja,
I want
go
to
ahead.
actually add a little bit structure to this for just everyone who's watching. I feel like you have to map out where you are in your journey right now. That, like, for example, I'm scared of creating video, or I create video, the lighting is not good, whatever. And then you make like a goal that this is where I want to be, and every single month you're going to make videos, and just if after you make 30 videos, you're going to do like 1% improvement. So okay, let me make my audio better, and then the third month you're going to be like, let's have better lighting. The fourth month you're going to be like, okay, let's do better hooks. And then the fifth month you're going to be like, let's do some storytelling. So start where you are and then improve 1% after every 30 videos or reels or whatever, and within a year you're going to be amazing.
Two things I want to say here. One is that I think that the idea of research certainly throws me off too, and I think that. But however, I think that the research piece is something that a lot of people, particularly introverts, would probably actually like. Hey, I love planning. I love kind of introspection and doing some research and figuring
Yeah,
this thing
me
out
too.
and all that kind of stuff. So I think even targeting that to introverts to say, hey, why don't you do some research to get started is good. But then also getting started, to Chris's point, is also incredibly important. We launched a hashtag campaign with 3 other video content creators on LinkedIn like 4 or 5 years ago. It was called 10 Tips, 10 Days. And the idea was share 10 tips on videos over on 10 different days, spaced out however you wanted. And it was great. That thing took off and people were doing it. And the goal was to get them to just start. I think that is incredibly important. And so I want to point that out. I want to get to the next, and there are some questions in the feed, which is great. I do want to mention this is brought to you by the TLB Club, the Thought Leaders Brand Club. It's a membership community designed to help business owners level up. If you're a small business owner, you want to level up with your branding, your content, your sales, your negotiation, or you want to save an inclusive space to share your stuff and get feedback and be elevated by other people who are in the group. You get access to me, you get access to weekly coaching, you get access to some 185 different master classes we've done over the last 2 years. And it's a great place to be. So if you want to be part of the TLB Club, take a look at the QR code there, take a look at the link, and you can see a little bit more about that. And we like to feature members. There's Alex and Rutuja are also in the club too, so we're featuring them and they're featuring me. So very excited to have you guys here with us. Now, let me get to a couple of questions. And I know we're going to talk later on. We're going to talk about short form versus long form ideas, but some questions that have come up in the chat. So the first one is, what is the best length of video for LinkedIn? And then the other one is, what tools do you shoot when creating content? You said no to iPhones and no cameras. So I don't want to dwell too long on the best length of video for LinkedIn, but anyone want to quickly share that?
I'm going to say.
Sorry, Chris and Alex.
Sure. So just real quick, the one format for the vertical video, if you want to have it get a chance to get in the reel in the feed, under 2 minutes, full stop. It's got to be under 2 minutes. LinkedIn does allow, I believe, up to now 12 minutes. I think it is. It might be a little bit longer for a video, so you can have long form. But if you want to hit quick newsreel, maybe have it get picked up by the editors. Firsthand have heard under 2 minutes is what you're shooting for.
I would actually say under 1 minute, so you can repurpose it on Instagram and YouTube Shorts as well. So, and that it saves a lot of effort because sometimes videos tend to work on YouTube Shorts better.
Well, interesting thing. Update. YouTube Shorts is increasing the length of YouTube Shorts. I think they've gone up to, I want to say 3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So really, I did not know this.
This is a very recent change. They announced it a couple weeks ago. I think it might actually go into effect today, if I'm not
I don't think it happened in India yet because I'm in India.
Okay.
It takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, but they have changed it. And it should be rolling out. You know how these things go.
Yeah.
Like companies, the rollouts are not always smooth, especially on LinkedIn. But yeah, so they've gone up to 3 minutes, and that's going to, I think that's going to create a shift in the way that people are creating YouTube Shorts. And other platforms have been like that, where you can do longer videos in the vertical format and it goes into the Reels feed and things. Like YouTube is kind of slow on the uptake to me. But yeah, I think that's a good thing that they've gone.
And I'll agree with Rutuja that, again, if you want to put video content on any platform, I would do all my videos a minute or less because it was easier for me to put it everywhere. So that's great. Now, if YouTube goes for 3 minutes, then you have, I would say, the option to go to 90 seconds, which now you can do Instagram Reels and still do YouTube and TikTok and everything else. One of the things I'll also tell you about this thing is that, and I'll use my Twitter example. When Twitter increased from 140 to 280 characters, everyone thought that's going to be the death of Twitter and allowing longer posts and what's that all about. But the truth is, even though people will do longer tweets, there is still value and merit in these short tweets. You still get a lot of goals. So there are people who are going to still do kick-ass with 10, 15, 20-second videos. So don't feel like you have to. But to me, I'm big on the repurpose. I'm like, okay, if YouTube is now going to 3 minutes, then now all my videos can be up to 90 seconds, and I'm happy to do that. I think that's a great way to go. For now, I like to keep them always a minute so that I can repurpose it. I post on LinkedIn, then I post on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all those other places. But I always start with LinkedIn first. That's kind of what
I want to talk about repurposing. I think this is something that is huge. So, as an example of repurposing, yes, you should probably have under 1 minute for a certain platform. You should have different time lengths for each one, but you need to think about that when you're actually producing the content in the first place and which channels you're going to be cutting up certain parts and then distributing them to. for example, I did a quick interview the other day with a founder and CEO, and then I had specific questions that I know, like, these are going to be good for LinkedIn. This question is going to be good if I provide them this clip for them to share on their Instagram reel. This question that I'm asking them is going to be good for them to share on, on their YouTube short. So I've got that in mind from the very beginning. So when I go back and edit that video, I can edit it appropriately in the right time for each platform, and then provide that to them to distribute if they want, or I have the option of doing it for myself. Now, if I didn't do that in the first place, then I'm going to be struggling to try to find those themes within that video to force into these different channels, and it's going to turn out nowhere near as good as it possibly could, right? So thinking about these things at the top of the line is really important if you're talking about a brand, especially, or if you have multi-platforms. One thing to note too, you don't have to have multi-platforms all the time. If you're really good at one, like YouTube is your thing, focus on that, right? Like, don't try to fit in 5 different platforms if you cannot manage that kind of content output. This is another mistake that I see all the time, is people want to put things everywhere all the time. That doesn't always work.
And then they burn out and they're tired.
They burn out. And not just that, like, they spread so thin, and that one piece of content is maybe better for one platform than another one. So people aren't going to pay attention.
Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's not good at all.
Yeah, that's right. And it won't work, but maybe it works really well on LinkedIn. So put your efforts in there and then build off that. When you have the capability, grow into other channels.
Yeah, I usually tell people.
Let me say one thing though. The reason why you do multi-platform though is because you never know what's going to hit and what people are going to like, because you're
I was going to share a story.
You're accessing diverse audiences. So what happens, when I launched my strategy, and again, I'm a big believer. I have my primary platform, which is LinkedIn, but I do dabble in other ones, and then you never know what's going to take off. So for me, what took off in the early days was Twitter, right? And so that really worked for me. And so you never know. But again, ultimately, how much time do you got, right? And don't burn out. If you don't have time, then fine, just do one platform, and then eventually, if you want to start expanding, you can pick 2 more that are part of our target audience.
Yeah, I usually tell people have a main one and then like a secondary, because we all know that we don't own these platforms. They might disappear one day.
So that's the other issue too, right?
So I suggest having one that you're focused on becoming the master of, and then have a backup that you at least dabble in and you're getting familiar with. You don't necessarily have to dedicate as much energy to it, especially if you're crunched for time, but have another one that you're kind of playing with, getting familiar with, setting yourself up for success with. And then you can always add on later. That's one mistake that people make, is they try to do too much up front rather than getting stable, getting consistent. And then you can always upgrade later. And that's in terms of platforms, that's in terms of gear, that's in terms of content types. You can always upgrade later.
Yeah. I have a fun story.
Sorry, Rutuja, want to say something? I'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I was just adding to all of that.
I got to facilitate these video content creators, guys. Like it's a mad ensemble. Rutuja, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just 6 months. Okay, I'm like, I'm gonna make Instagram work, and it started like the ball started rolling, and I was like, okay, something has to go viral. This is going to be amazing. Every single day I'm posting a reel for 6 months, and I'm like, I'm so consistent. This is exciting. And nothing is happening on Instagram. Okay, like the ball is rolling, but not as much as I would have liked it to. And then suddenly one day I'm looking at LinkedIn profile views, and I'm like, what is this number? I can't understand what this number is. And I hit 3 million impressions on LinkedIn. And I wasn't even focusing on LinkedIn. I was just putting content randomly on LinkedIn because I was like, I don't know, whatever, let's just repurpose stuff. So sometimes that happens, and I got so many profile views and website visits, and that period of like 15 or 20 days was amazing for my business as well. So I think that's like a magic trick with content. Like, you never know what's going to work.
Yeah, no, for sure. Experiment by all means, but looking at it from the perspective of like a full-time content-driven brand, right? Like if you're at a company and you have a certain amount of resources to put into a specific channel over other channels, and if you spread yourself too thin, like I've seen this in practice multiple times with different brands internally, where they start just publishing everywhere and then nothing works, right? Because you're
need to have a strategy like that works for you. and
That works
going
for
to
you.
keep
You
doing
as
that.
an individual, and I think that as an individual is a different prospect from a like content like process and strategy within a company, right? Because companies tend to want to put things out everywhere anyway. Oh, is this blog post on Twitter? Is it on TikTok? Is it here? Is it there? Why aren't we posting everywhere? Well, because this content isn't created for that. If you want to create content specifically for those channels, like let's do it right. Let's knock it out. Let's focus on that channel. So just if you're working for a company, if you're working for a client, like make sure that you're asking them, where's your audience at? Like let's start with that, and then we can branch out as we go.
Yeah.
And a
And,
lot of them won't know.
That's right. That's right. Exactly
Yeah.
true. They won't. They really won't.
Alex, I want to make sure you answer this question. What tools do you shoot when you create content? You said no to iPhones and no cameras. So can you
Well,
quickly answer
my
that?
first disclaimer to everybody is don't be like me. Like, don't try to be like me. I run a production company. I've got thousands of dollars worth of cameras and lights and everything else. If you really like it, fine. Go down the rabbit hole. But I'm warning you, you don't want to be like me. I think the majority of people should start with their cell phone camera. And for a lot of people, especially if you're a solo creator just getting started, you got a full-time business, full-time job, et cetera, that's going to be the tool that you use personally to create your content. There are some bells and whistles that you can add on to that, like getting mics or things like that, that'll up the quality of your content a little bit. Maybe take some lessons or some tutorials to learn how to better utilize the tool that is the cell phone, because especially iPhones, you can make fantastic looking content, like content that is almost indistinguishable from stuff shot with professional cameras with an iPhone. Like you can do that. So that's where I would tell most people to start. The only time that I would start really getting, because like I'm using a halfway cinema camera right now to do this live stream. Like it's one of the cameras that I shoot clients with, but it works for web streaming as well. So that's why I say don't try to be like me. But once the gear starts getting in the way of you creating the content that you want to create, that's when you upgrade. So I tell everybody, start with the cell phone because everybody's got one. It's in your pocket. It works. It does multiple things. When it starts getting in the way, then you can upgrade, or you hire somebody who's got all the bells and whistles and the tools and the toys to help you with creating the content. And it's also a function of where your brand is at. Like, does your brand actually need the highly produced stuff like I create or that I do for clients? Do you need that? Is that the kind of brand image that you're trying to cultivate? For some people it's yes, for some people it's no. And it's not just a function of what profession you're in, it's the image and kind of like the whole brand that you're trying to build and cultivate. And sometimes it means that some of the content that you're going to do is going to be lower quality in terms of the visual aspects or the technical aspects, but then some of the content might need to be more highly produced to be effective for specific purposes.
Let me just shift gears a little bit here. And if you have more questions, like you can have more questions, put comments in. If you have more questions, put in the comments, tag people, reply to us, follow these three amazing content creators. I think that'd be great. We'd love to have them. If you have more questions, I'll put them in the feed, but right now there aren't any. So make sure you comment and engage people and things like that. I want to quickly go to the LinkedIn video feed because that's a new trend right now. And so Chris, let me go to you. I know you've been testing this and dabbling in this. Let's talk a bit about that and see if anyone else wants to contribute some thoughts on that.
So, I mean, for me personally, like I'm dabbling in it because I want to understand how it works. I want to understand what hits. And then I personally use my dabbling to apply to professional, right? So I'll go and I'll experiment on my own profile page. I'll see what works and what doesn't work. And then I'll say, okay, maybe we can do this for our brand. So I'm kind of like the guinea pig for that. I mean, that's what I do anyway. Like I like to test out polls and different kinds of things and see what really works. So that's how I approach the current video on LinkedIn. But I'm also looking, like what Alex said, for those inspiration moments of other people and what they're doing, and seeing what I could bring to my own flavor, my own way of doing it, and if there's anything that fits with myself. It's like you have a favorite writer that you're really into, and you're not going to plagiarize them. You're not going to ask AI to do it for you, but you're going to take that inspiration. And I think LinkedIn right now, because it is still early and new, it's only been really pushing it for about a month and a half now. It's pretty new, right? So
Yeah.
you're going to see trends come through. Suddenly there's going to be all kinds of skits, right? Like TikTok style skits. Then you're going to see people talking to the camera with top fives like one week. Then you're going to see something else come the next week. So just take it as a whole, right? Look at these trends that have come through. Look at kind of what they're picking up and what's showing up in your reel, because that's a good indicator of what the LinkedIn team is picking and promoting at that time as well too. And then I'm trying to think about how I can apply my own spin on things. What can I test? What can I try? What can I see that will work that I could transfer into my business and into my company? For example, I have one guy at our company who I know is really super knowledgeable about a very niche subject. So whatever he does, it's not going to get into that feed. It's just not, because that's a very like career focused. LinkedIn is very career focused. So anything careers or knowledge base is going to hit. But if it's really super niche, I don't have the expectation that it's going to make it into that feed. My expectation is going to be that if I do something really niche with him, it's going to reach the right people, right? Like maybe it'll get like, I don't know, 2,000 views, but those 2,000 views are by people that we want that content to be seen by. So that's going to be my goal.
Mhm. I would
You know,
like to add to this actually,
go ahead, Rutuja.
on what I've noticed, like because I post a lot on Instagram. On Instagram, the emotional storytelling perspective videos work a lot. And just in 1 month, I've noticed on LinkedIn, the technical value based videos work. Like, how do you use polls on LinkedIn, for example? Like, really technical, but value based, but still that has a common denominator that everyone needs it. Those kind of videos are working on LinkedIn more. But again, as Chris said, like it's too early to kind of understand. Like Instagram is set, like storytelling perspective, reels work the best now, with like little bit editing, clean editing. But LinkedIn is too early to tell. Like the trends are going to keep changing.
But knowledge base, again,
That,
like
yeah, yes.
your knowledge base is gonna work well. There's one guy, Patrick Caligari. He does entertainment videos. He's been doing them every single day. He's a producer who worked in what was it, unscripted shows. But as you know, the entertainment industry has been having hard times. So he started doing this a lot on LinkedIn every single day, and now he's built up a really solid following of people in the entertainment industry who are
That's
engaging.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's getting picked up on like the editorial storylines that the LinkedIn editors are writing, and that's another channel, but another discussion. But he's basically transitioned from I cannot find work to hey, I'm going to be a knowledge base expert and sharing this in these short videos, and it's really worked well. Like people in the entertainment industry who are producers, who are line producers and grips and key grips and stuff like that are following him, right? Like they are picking up that knowledge from him. So you can find those opportunities and be very effective at video.
One thing I
Yeah,
want to add
just
about the LinkedIn thing, though, is that they launched this whole thing with the beta feed, and I've had a few videos show up there, which is great. And I also believe that general platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook should have all the different options available to them. The challenge that I'm seeing, though, is I saw that Rutuja had a video, and she told us that hey, it's got 300,000 views. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and then Roy in our community group said, hey, I got a video that's got 3 million views. I don't understand what's going on. And I was like, I was getting kind of jealous. I was like, oh, let me keep doing this. I finally got one that got 1 million views. But the part that kind of floored me was that these people were getting these great views, Rutuja and Chris and Roy and a bunch of other people. And I wasn't seeing any significant increase in likes or comments or engagement on the post. So what's happening is it's showing up in the beta feed. People are swiping through it and going past really fast. So my video with 1 million views, great. Did it lead to more engagement? I would say no, it did not. I don't. Okay, I'm glad it got the 1 million views. I'm glad it maybe got a little bit more engagement, but nothing where people are like, oh my gosh, Bob, great video. Let's do business. I wasn't getting that increase. So that's one thing I think is a little bit I'm concerned about in terms of what those numbers actually mean. So if I have 1 million impressions, what does that actually mean? Because I don't think the numbers are accurate is the first issue. The second thing I'll say is that LinkedIn has been pushing, like I get emails from LinkedIn saying, hey, here, content and, because I'm a LinkedIn top voice, so they send me emails. And they're definitely pushing video all the time. In the group, they're talking about video. In the email, they're saying do a video. So they're definitely pushing video a lot. So if you want to get some attention around you and your content, then definitely doing videos on LinkedIn is great. And similarly, when YouTube announces they're going to do 3-minute shorts or whatever, then you know what? Start doing a couple of longer ones, because what happens when any platform announces a new thing they're doing, you should totally take advantage of it and try things, because all of a sudden, next thing you know, you become the 2.5-minute guru on YouTube because you put those videos out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just to speak to what you were talking about, Bobby, with the videos that go viral or suddenly get all the views, there's something that people have to keep in mind. It's that stuff that goes viral is not necessarily good for business. It's good for exposure. It's not necessarily good for business, because when stuff goes viral, that means it just gets shown to a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
But a whole lot of people are usually not your customers. They're not the people who are actually going to send you the email, that are going to send you the DM, that are going to reach out, going to give you the phone call, et cetera, et cetera. So it's more important to build a video output that's consistent and is reaching the right sorts of people than to have one video pop and go viral. And the other thing is, a lot of times when stuff goes viral, people aren't ready for it, because you got to be ready to follow up that viral moment with more consistent output, because you might reach some of the people that you were trying to reach, but now you got to give them something to keep going on. And hopefully you also, by the time you do go viral, you've already got a library of content that they can dig into if they decide to click on your profile and start doing deep dives and all of that. So a lot of folks, they go viral, they're not ready for the viral moment. So it's better to be consistent than to be viral.
I
Yeah.
also want to add to this, and I completely agree with what Alex said, that you can't control virality, and sometimes you don't even have the capacity to follow up with so many leads if you do get them. But at the same time, I feel like we should not take video and content so seriously, and the focus has to just be on, like what Alex said, like create content consistently, especially the not taking yourself seriously. Because when you are like, oh my god, this has gone viral, now the next 10 posts have to go viral, it's so much pressure. Like, it's
That
just
part.
spend 30 minutes every single day creating content, you're going to do amazing. Like, that's enough.
Yeah, on going viral. So working in media where you're based off of traffic, you want to go viral, right? Like we
Mhm.
want as many engagements and views because you're based around advertising dollars, and those advertising dollars are views, right? But that very much changes with like what Alex is saying, and you don't need to do it. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. I have a real world example where I went viral on LinkedIn, back in 2009, and I got something like 30,000 followers as a result, and 500,000 likes, something like 50,000 shares, tens of millions of views. Like, it was nuts. Like, my phone was just exploding all night long. But those followers now don't mean anything. Like, the people that like came to my page from that and followed me, they don't care about the content I do. They just like that one post. It had no long-term value for me overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it boosted my number, my follower count, but like half of them have left LinkedIn after that amount of time anyway too. So it didn't matter in the end what I got from that. And with a brand, like, it really matters who your audience is. And LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform for hitting the right audience from a
Like
business.
the targeting.
Yeah, from a targeted perspective, if you know that you want to use it to network and connect with people to drive sales, it's fantastic. You don't need to go viral. Going viral, if anything, is going to hurt you. Like Alex said, it can be overwhelming. It can damage your brand potentially, because you can also bring in people who are like, "What the hell is this?" If you want to cultivate that message and like try to really make sure that your message is out there in the way that you want it, going viral is really difficult to manage that. The
Yeah,
comments that can come through. Like, have you managed like a large comment thread on something? Oh my God.
that's
The amount of
crazy.
You get trolls on LinkedIn too. It's not
Well,
just
one of
YouTube.
my videos that went viral was, very social justice related, and so there was a lot of haters on it, and so that's something that happens. I want to be mindful of guys. If you have any more questions, put them in the chat so we can feature them. Again, this is brought to you by the TLB Club, College Brand Club. If you want to get access to me and also meet Alex and Rutuja, come check out TLB Club. Click on the QR code. We have a weekly call every Thursday at 4 p.m. We have a master class coming up, and this time we have John Aspinall talking about A/B testing your content and projects. So it's gonna be really good training that's available to anybody in the public as well as the members. I want to talk about long form and just video production in general. So let's get into that a little bit. What are your, when it comes to short form and long form video production processes? Can you start with you, Alex? What are some of the things that you're doing? So maybe share some tips, and we'll go, and then everyone else can share their thoughts too.
Well, these days, when you're thinking about short form versus long form, I really think that the answer should be both, and that it should be a process of thinking about long form to become short form. And what I mean by that, especially with things like YouTube videos, with things like longer tutorials, things like content series, when you're mapping these things out, when you're thinking about them, when you're getting your SOPs together, the thought should be, overall, it should be, what information am I trying to communicate? What's the goal for this content? But in that, when you're developing it and formatting it, it's like, all right, we're doing this. It's going to be a long piece of content, but how are we going to make it so that it's easy to break down into short form content so that we can get more mileage out of it? Because a lot of times the short form content that you create can be used to lead people back to the long form content. Whereas if all you do is long form content, nobody's going to be interested because they don't know if it's valuable enough for them to be interested. And that's not saying short form content should only come from long form content. It shouldn't. You should have short form content that is just short form content, because it can be, depending on what platform you're on, there's a high level of discoverability. You can get new audience members. It's just all sorts of benefits for doing short form content, easy to consume, et cetera, et cetera. But when you are approaching long form content, be thinking, how can I effectively and easily turn this into short form content? And that may lead you to think about different ways of constructing that content.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I want to add some perspective also to what you just said. Like, if you're going to shoot long form, then you have to think about short form as well, because that's just better. But I also feel like some people are just not made to do short form and long form both. Like, either you're like, I feel like most of the clients I work with, they're either great at long form or short form. And it's a lot about identifying who you are as a person and what you feel comfortable doing. Because if form, then doing long form is not your forte, because you can't stretch that story and the entertainment for so long. And sometimes you're so good at long form that you just can't fit things in under like 2 minutes or a minute. So I think this is a big, like, a ticker that should be on the screen, that you really need to understand who you are as a person and what you're comfortable with, and play on those strengths. Like, don't, there's so much competition that you can't try and do everything, because you're just gonna go crazy and spend a lot of money.
Focus on the long form if you're good at it, but then again, I think look for those opportunities within that long form to clip and find those moments that you can leverage the short form format. And if you are conceptualizing a long form program or a long form show or whatever it is that you're doing, like, come up with one question, come up with one moment within that if you
Oh,
say,
that's a good strategy.
right?
Easy
So
strategy.
if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I know that I have a question ready to go. Hey, okay, what is this? And I know that the answer is going to be under 2 minutes. I can then take that and then move that somewhere else, right? So if you can plan for it, even if you're not good at short form, you just plan for it and you look for those opportunities.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was talking about when I was saying, like, design your long form for short
Yeah.
form,
Mm.
especially when you got like a series that you're doing, or you've got a podcast that you're creating. Like, you can make spaces in it, or you can segment it up so that there are pieces that are easy to take out. Like, if you've got a podcast that you're like, if you're doing a podcast and you're going to be doing the podcast for however long podcasts go for, maybe there are sections that you set up in the podcast. Like, every time you have a lightning round of questions that you do with somebody, or there's,
Oh, yeah.
if you're like a tech-based podcast, or you're in some kind of, business that uses a lot of digital tools or something, maybe there's a feature that you do every other week or every week where you break down one of your favorite tools and things. Like, those are things that you can set up that are easy to, like, take out of the big thing and make into a smaller thing. And also, it's not necessarily just having things that come from a long form piece of content that can be under a minute. It can be something that's an hour long where you set it up so that you can take 5-minute chunks out of it for shorter videos, or you could take 2-minute chunks out of it for shorter videos, things like that. So that way you can have different lengths of content that you're pulling out of your long form content, not necessarily just TikTok stuff or Instagram reel stuff. There's all sorts of ways that you can break things up and re-release them.
Let me share two things. So one is that, I've been a speaker for 20 years. I've trained speakers to be paid speakers as well as, TEDx speakers. And, most people don't want to do long form. They're very nervous about it. It's hard enough to get them to speak for 3 minutes about anything. So it's very, very difficult. So I think a lot of people will be more comfortable starting with short form content. That said, if you are a podcaster and if you are able to do the long stuff and share stories, then yes, I think a lot, for me, my strategy, I do short form content and I do long form content. And then the second thing I'll say is that for me, I'm all about finding the clips now. So what I do is, I do these live streams, for example, I do them once a month. I do regular videos, maybe, a couple times per week, but I'll do the live streams once per month. But then I use AI. So Opus Clip is the tool I'm using. It identifies pieces and snippets from the talk. It'll do it for this one as well. And usually it creates about 30, 35 snippets, of which maybe 2/3 are pretty good. And I use those. And so I've been using them for all the live streams I've done. I now have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of short clips that I've vetted and are either featuring me or featuring one of my speakers. And I'm happy to share that content because to me, it's win-win. So I'm sharing that nugget that Chris might share, or Rutuja might share, or Alex might share, or it might be me sharing a nugget. So for me, that's been fantastic. I've been using that significantly, and not for LinkedIn per se, but I've been using it for TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. It certainly has been working well for me. So there are things you can do. Definitely, if you are doing long form content, make sure it's vertical really helps. And using tools like Opus Clip that I was using. There's other ones as well, but that's what I'm using. And I'm able to get those short form clips because it just saves me time from having to search through it or hire someone to search through those things for me. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
One thing I think we haven't talked about yet, and I do want to bring up, is we've talked all pretty much about like on camera and not taking other video, right? And how do we repurpose other video to the benefit of our feeds? I want to bring this up as an example because with my company, my brand, we work with different film productions. So I basically have a library of films and movies that I can take a clip to edit and to share, and I'm able to do that without any kind of copyright restraints. So for example, Terrifier 3 came out recently. I don't know if you guys have heard about that movie. Gore fest, pretty wild stuff. I'm not going to see it, a bit much for me, but it came out. It was one of our Tide productions, and I found a clip of Art the Clown coming to the window of a bar and seeing Santa Claus and being like, and then he walks off screen. So I took that little tiny moment and tied it into our brand and, posted on our LinkedIn page. And it's a video, it's related to our clients, and it's in our stream. And I was able to write copy around it, and it works, right? And that was a very
fun
short
content as well.
Yeah, and it's fun content, right? It's
Yeah.
visual content. I could have just wrote, our client released this and we're very proud of it, right? But why not take advantage of that video when we have that library, when we have that opportunity to do so? Many brands have these opportunities that they don't recognize. There may be video that their small businesses are shooting all the time. You can go and look for these things and find them and find copyright free stuff and repurpose it. So don't just think of video as you're in front of the camera all the time. There's opportunities out there everywhere.
Yeah. And I think an example of this would be like memes and these kind of things get so much reach and engagement and shares. It's really fun when it starts working.
Yeah, and think about what catches people's eyes. SpaceX the other day had the rocket launch where they caught the giant booster. If you were on LinkedIn, you probably saw this. People were posting clips of it like crazy, and there's a reason why they are, because it's incredible. So anybody in technology or engineering or who would catch the eye of this kind of visual content, like that's a win if you post it. You know, I posted it. I got a lot of people who connected with me. And it was easy to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and there's and especially Rutuja probably knows this really well because she focuses on Instagram and things like that. Um, Borrowing people's content like that and just finding a way to tie it into what it is that you're doing, write copy around it, write a post around it, just so that it doesn't have to have anything, inherently in the content to do with your brand. But if it's a moment from a movie, a story, if it's
Yeah.
something that happened in real life that a lot of people know about, if it's something that's trending, if you can just find a way to make it relate to what it is that you got going on or what you talk about, that can be a win. And it's something that you don't have to create.
Yep.
Hey, so listen, guys, it's been an hour. I want to thank you all for being here. If you guys have any more questions for the panel, you can take the live stream and share it on your networks. You can put comments in the question. You can tag them. Make sure you follow these people. I want to thank you guys for your time. I guess we'll maybe end with some kind of final thoughts of where people follow you. So, Rutuja, any final kind of thought and maybe promote your stuff? Where can people follow you?
Yes, follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram. My username is the personal brand girl, super easy. And anyway, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you're going to find me easily. And I mostly post about my learnings on business and perspective, and a lot of like, let me tell you the truth kind of content. So that's what I do. And if you want to know business perspective and you're like, I feel stuck with video or blah blah blah, then just follow me, and I hope I can help you out.
Thank you, Chris. Go ahead.
LinkedIn, that's where to find me for sure. Long time LinkedIn user. I post about careers a lot, so career advice and kind of how to navigate that world. I also post about content and content advice, sometimes writing, marketing, and things of that nature. So yeah, always happy to engage with folks who would like to on LinkedIn.
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me, kind of like everybody else. And I mostly post about video, things that are happening in the world of video, like the YouTube shorts being extended, things like that. Content strategies related to video. And sometimes I post stuff about health because that's been a really big focus in my life for the last couple of years. And just a general word to everybody out there. If you're going to get started in video, please just keep pushing through that point where you don't like what you're making, where you're self-conscious, because when you first start, you're probably going to suck. Almost everybody sucked when they started. And you got to just do enough of the sucky stuff to start getting to the good stuff. And sometimes your judgment on what sucks versus what doesn't suck is completely skewed because you're probably your biggest critic. So once you start getting stuff out there and giving people a chance to give you your props, you might be surprised. You're probably a lot better than you think you are.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. And for me, I help people land a TEDx talk. I'm currently running a 5-day challenge this week. If anybody wants access to the replays and over the training there, to me, my goal is to help people become thought leaders, to build their brands, to get more speaking gigs, to get more opportunities. And of course, this is brought to you by the TLB Club, Thought Leaders Brand Club. We're a membership community for small business owners to help you elevate your brand, your business, your sales, your negotiation. Have the support of amazing people like video experts like Alex and Rutuja, like career experts, LinkedIn experts. We have a lot of amazing people in our community. You also get access to our weekly calls, which is on Thursday at 4 p.m. There's 185 masterclass we've built over the last couple of years in our vault. And of course, you get access to coaching and some amazing people there. So think about that. Click on the QR code. You can learn more about what we're doing. This video is obviously public. You can share it with other people and feel free to ask me more questions. Thank you to Alex. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Rutuja for being part of this. A great conversation today. I really appreciate you guys.